This is page 81 from the Initiation into Hermetics PDF file download you can find in the description of this video. And this is about, this is picking up from the last exercise with the levitation of the air element. This is about communication with beings from the fourth dimension. And what you do is you sit down at a table and put your hands on it, kind of like you were doing in the beginning of the last exercise with the levitation. And instead what you can do is you're going to imagine that your spiritual hand's coming out of your physical one. So you'll sit there and just imagine that you're moving your spirit hand from your hand, the part of your spirit that's your hand, out of your physical hand. And you have to regard and look at the spiritual hand as your real one as you're doing this, and get the sense. And you should feel in your imagination, you should see like actually a spiritual part of your hand coming from your hand. And know that as soon as you see this part of your hand is actually in the fourth dimension. At this moment it says the carnal hand is quite harmless, but it's the fourth dimension, the Akasha principle. And what you want to do is you want to try doing this for 5 minutes. Try, imagine it. I guess you close your eyes and imagine your hand, your spiritual hand coming out of your hand. And actually, you should be able to sense it and see it there, protruding out. And sit there and do it for 5 minutes. Try to sit there for 5 minutes with it like that. And it's kind of, it might get kind of creepy maybe, a little bit. I don't know. But make a few attempts to try and make it for 5 minutes. And he say that he says as soon as you're able to do it for 5 minutes, you can start with communication with invisible ones. And I was just talking about this is different from other spiritualists. Okay, he's just saying here, what you want to do after that is he's saying that your hand, when it comes out, when it is coming out, the spiritual hand, it's actually, you can be seen by beings in the fourth dimension. And then now you're able to begin communication with those beings in the fourth dimension. And then he's just talking about, actually back here he was talking about the fact that by doing this, compared to other spiritualists, they just put a pencil in their hand and they start writing or painting messages on a paper. And that you don't really know whether they're communicating with beings from a fourth dimension or not, because he's saying that they're probably not going through this practice here at the beginning of trying to take your spiritual hand from your real physical hand. So that it could just be that they're thinking about it, that it's just their subconscious, that they might not actually be tapping into the fourth dimension. And down here he's saying he's just talking a bit about doing ennobling your character, working hard on the magical development. And once you've done that with the spiritual hand, now he's going to say, now here you want to take a pendulum. And it doesn't have to be a real pendulum. It could be like a ring or a small object at the end of a piece of string. And you want to take the end of twist the end of it around your finger, and so that it's swinging 8 to 12 inches from the table. So you probably have your elbow of your hand hold the pendulum at like maybe a 30-degree angle or something, and keep the hand upright. And then make sure it's a couple inches above the tabletop. And you put a glass of water or some object to hit it, 2 to 3 inches from it. And then go through the exercise of taking your spiritual hand from your physical hand. And sit there for a couple of minutes, a minute or two. And then you want to call your guide, or whoever appears in the fourth dimension, and ask that they will answer the questions that you ask. So in this condition, call your guide, ask him in your mind that he might manifest to you the help of your magically prepared hand. Yes or no answers to a question. And so then what you want to do is observe the pendulum and say that one stroke of it on a glass means a no, with 2 strokes perhaps, and 3 strokes a yes, and then see what you get. And ask your spiritual guide as your spiritual hands there, if they will answer the questions, and see if the pendulum goes, if they move the pendulum for 1, 2, or 3 strokes corresponding to this here. And then he's just talking about the feeling of it. It'll feel like your own hand is a glove to the spiritual hand, and different people have different sensations. So you want to sit there with your, the pendulum dangling from your hand physically, but it's actually your spiritual hand's actually there holding this pendulum. So you should have the feeling of, your hand kind of being still, and the spiritual one actually holding it to be in communication with the beings or your spirit guide from the 4th dimension. And then, let's see. Then he's talking about having a planchette. In other words, letters on a thing. So I guess what you could do is you could actually make some type of circle, because probably most people don't have a planchette. So this, as far as the glass here, you're just using that to make contact with the spirit guide with your spiritual hand. I never really did this. I would just make a pie chart like he's talking about down here, and just write letters in a big circle, like a pie chart with 26 little sections, and write a letter in each one. And then what you want to do is he's talking about taking a glass upside down, putting your physical hand on it, extracting the spiritual hand, and you'll have a bunch of letters on a piece of paper, and then you would ask questions and have it move, the spiritual hand move to the different letters for questions you would ask. So he's not really going into here, I haven't looked at this for a bit, he's not really going into the process of asking questions. This is just preparing you to communicate with these spirit guides. So the one exercise really is about extracting the spiritual hand from the hand, and then setting up either a glass with a pendulum or some type of letters on a piece of paper, and using it upside down like glass, which he's talking about here, small liquor glass. And so we moved all the letters by the lead